I think now you can add people. Yeah.
All right, so request the host to please add the participants. All right, so it's 3 p.m. and we are all set to begin with another stimulating session on connecting the dots. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. A lot of organizations' time, efforts, and money goes into ensuring that payroll is compliant to protecting the company from unreasonable wage or benefit demands from trade unions or aggressive employees. Every company faces a worrying number of potential legal issues relating to the compliance. However, it may never be a company's intent to break these laws, but without necessary protection, it may easily slip through the cracks. So, how can you be sure that you can avoid the risk of non compliance? To address this, we have our experts who will be sharing their views on the challenges in and around statutory compliance and its legalities. HREI welcomes you all to this session on connecting the dots, statutory compliance and its legality. To know more about HRI and its events, I would request all our participants to visit the link and details posted in the chat window. It would be great to have all the participants' feedback. We will be running a poll before the Q&A session. Request all participants to kindly give your feedback on the session. I now take the privilege to introduce our esteemed panel members for our today's webinar. Mr. Sanjay Banka, Chief Financial Officer, Senco Gold Limited. Staunch believer in 3I mantras: inspire, ideate, innovate. Mr. Sanjay uses these mantras to accelerate the performance of team and cross function to lead business performance. Mr. Sanjay is an accomplished finance professional, CA and CS, with over 2 decades of experience in large organizations like Tata, Hutchison, Reliance, Bharti Airtel, Systema Russia, SREI, and Merino in retail, infrastructure, telecom, and manufacturing sectors. He has expertise in both business as well as strategic finance with demonstrated track record in successful execution of business initiatives spanning large geographies, steering organization, wide solutions, planning and executing project launch on Pan India, large geographies in a complex regularity and competitive ecosystem. You can also follow him on LinkedIn. The link for the same has been shared in the chat window. Our next panel member, Mr. Narendra Kumar N, National Head ER and Compliance, HCCB. Mr. Narendra started career as facility manager for 50-acre campus, managed 250 CLs on security, canteen, pantry, and HQ before getting into core industrial relations role. He led logistics of moving twice a vehicle convoy of 200 plus to Ladakh with no casualty in the face of militancy, and handled irate mob of 2,000 to disperse without firing a bullet despite having a shoot at sight order at hand, Siachen operations with Bofor guns and many counter-insurgency operations in J&K and Punjab. He is currently working at HCCB and trained 32 HR resources in workplace right policy to ensure 100% compliance in all their entities. He implemented CWFM, Contract Workforce Management tool of UKG in 2020 in 22 locations and trained line managers on provocative employee relations. You can also follow him on LinkedIn. The link for the same has been shared in the chat window. Now I'll introduce our panel cum moderator for today's session, Ms. Vandana Teji, founder, CEO, and GOI, resource person for POSH, the Unicorn People. Ms. Vandana Teji is a human resource professional with over 14 years of industry experience. She holds a master's degree in strategic human resource management from the National University of Singapore. She is a national president of Women's Indian Chamber of Commerce and Industry, WICCI, National Pay Parity Council, and is also an active member of Green Heart Dignity Italy. Herein, she works in the field of women empowerment, equal rights, and economic development. She has been recognized as Thousand Women Faces of Asia under the Legal Awareness and Human Rights category by Women Innovator in 2021. She has been awarded as the Innovative Leader of the Year 2021 by HR Association of India. Her venture, the Unicorn People, working in the field of women empowerment and training, has been recognized by Diversity Award by Jobs for her best post strategy, best consumer customer service during the pandemic, and best use of technology during the pandemic by HRAI. You can also follow her on LinkedIn. The link for the same has been shared in the chat window. And with this, we are done with the introductions. Without taking any much time, I will now hand over the platform to Ms. Vandana to take this discussion forward.
Thank you, Fazil, and hello and good evening, everybody. Hello, Sanjay, and hello, Narendra. Looking forward to a very engrossing discussion because the topic is so heated. And without much ado, and because I think I'm a firm believer of this quote which says, if you think compliance is expensive, try non compliance. I think it is like the most famous dialogue about compliance, but it is true to the core. Everybody who has been non compliant and been questioned on it knows how badly it hurts. Yeah. So starting on that note, I have a list of questions to get your inputs on, and we'll begin with Narendra. So my first question for you is, you know, we're still not out of the pandemic. I don't know when we will be out of the pandemic finally. Sometimes we feel we are out of it, and then Mumbai shows some cases, then Kerala shows some cases. So my question is, how has the pandemic affected statutory compliance?
uh, Initial stage, we had a huge difficulty to comply with the new requirement. If you all recall, somewhere in the March 2020, MHA was coming after many directives in terms of circulars. That becomes a sudden law. All the other compliances for a moment it was forgotten, and we didn't know how to manage the situation. May that be how much people to be allowed to work, how much people to be carried in a staff bus or a car, and what not. So many things were there during that time. And it was a difficult time. And later, when we got accustomed to it, then we started realizing, yes, there is some regular compliance also supposed to do. So that's where our focus again got shifted to that. One of the element, most of the organization, when the time pandemic struck, is looked at least 50-60% of the organization used to worry about the safety, security from the COVID-19 of their employees, and also ensure that financially they have to be sustained so that even if they don't come for the work, they have to pay. Of course, that MHA gave a direction, but even before that, certain proactive organization taken with it and done that. Later, when we grappled with all the things, we realized how to manage the changes and how to comply in the change requirement. It was perceived from a remote place, it is managing the pen and paper record and demonstrating a compliance is not that easy. So in the meanwhile, at least half a dozen companies in my mind, they started, coming out with a digitalized way the compliance can be made. And the industry is booming now currently. And most organizations, including mine, seeing a value in shifting to paperless process of compliance.
Correct. Thank you, Narendra. And Sanjay, what are your thoughts on it? With regards to the COVID scenario, I think that will also add perspective to the current in culture or the environment in the compliance industry.
I think we as a country have managed COVID very efficiently and very seamlessly. And as an employee, even the employers, the society at large, and government also gave its maximum support. So the entire COVID, I think India has most successfully overcome the challenge of COVID. Barring the timely payment of taxes and dues, government extended as much help as possible
Of course.
in terms of submitting the GST return, in terms of holding the annual general meeting, the board meetings, the entire culture of having the various meetings digitally. Particularly, I am saying all these things from the point of the corporate finance angle. So, to my understanding, most of the CFOs whom I spoke, they have been able to manage the COVID very successfully. Moratorium opportunity was also provided in case of companies which could not pay interest on time. So we at Senco have been able to manage COVID very successfully, and despite all the challenges, we have grown in the COVID year. So while the most of the companies in India had seen a degrowth of 50% to 30% on the top line, in March 21, we grew by 10%, and in the current year 21-22, we grew by 30%. So which clearly shows that as a company, we have successfully managed and overcome the compliance risk of COVID.
Great, great. So now, because I know from a or larger organizational perspective. Okay, as I have already told you, I'm going to take a little leeway of asking two small questions here and there. So from a larger organizational perspective, there was resources, there were brains to put together, and then make sure that the compliance is happening the way it is supposed to, and because there was enough manpower to take care of. Now I'm worried about the MSME sector, which falls under a similar kind of a lot of compliances that they are supposed to take care. However, they're always running with resource crunches, and for them. Managing business more from a hand to mouth perspective is more important rather than take care of compliances. Yeah. So I want your thought process, Narendra, you first, and then Sanjay, if you can add few.
So
What are your thoughts on
for
this?
all these things, nowadays there are a lot of third-party providers there, and I don't want to name them, but they are really evolved well. They brought an A element into the tool, and it can what do you call that OCR, optical character reading abilities, where any scan documents uploaded, and it can make meaningful thing out of it and get stored in the relevant tables and formats where we need to comply. So these are the things currently being done by some other companies which are pioneering and making the compliance to the next level. So
Correct.
any small organizations can nowadays access these organizations and avail the services. By availing the services, they don't have to be constrained by the resources. Yeah, the organizations of repute only are operating in this sphere. They'll be able to support well and make sure that even a MSME or a small organization do comply all the requirements.
Correct. Correct. Sanjay, what are your
I,
thoughts?
yeah, I will add on to it. So, to my understanding, the challenge for MSME was not about compliance. The challenges for MSME was basically about the fall in the revenue. The employees, particularly the laborers, poor laborers who left for their villages, they did not have money to come back. And when they came back, they wanted their salaries for the COVID period. So, and then due to the vendors, the customers did not pay to MSME. To my understanding, this COVID period, MSME had a major difficulty. And although we don't talk about it, but as a professional, while we are working in large companies, MSME form the backbone of Indian economy. MSME and small sector. I think there was a very adverse impact on MSME, but that is more from COVID aspect. On compliance part, I don't think that MSME had faced any challenges because most of the MSMEs, while they don't work with Big Four, they work with small CA firms who provide them services. Third-party providers are there. Their main challenges was on account of funding, on account of cash flow, on account of sustenance, not on account of compliance.
But then there was a challenge, which, again, I'm saying, I wanted to add this point specifically. There was a
Yeah.
challenge to decide where you want to spend this money, because the kitty, which was A square earlier, was reduced to a A minus. Okay, so they had to decide whether they want to give away the salaries, or they want to go ahead and make sure that they are paying for the compliances.
No, I don't think so. See, when you collect the GST from the customer, that GST you can't pay to your employees or pay to your vendor. That's a compliance issue.
No, no,
Ultimately,
not
no,
specifically to the GST. I meant. Yeah.
no, I'm saying about all. I'm saying
Mhm.
that no, you have a liability to pay salary. Now, if you are not having salary, you can cut down on the salary and you can pay lower PF, but the PF has to be paid, DSI has to be paid, professional tax has to be paid. Although I may not have full visibility about what were the specific difficulty on compliances, but we did not find any adverse report on MSME facing compliance issues. But if you collect GST, you don't pay, then you will be behind the jail. The government provided best effort, but ultimately, when you are in business, you have to fend for yourself. What government can do is that government can provide you a better loan facility. The government can provide you moratorium, but not beyond that. Those are the
Correct.
challenges, and those are the challenges of work of having running a business.
Indeed. Indeed.
To me, all
Indeed.
these MSMEs are not just standalone operators, they are
Yeah,
supporting larger organizations.
absolutely.
And the larger organizations tend to ensure that they are, whosoever is the business partner or supplier, there are certain supply guiding principles they put in place. For example, any auto industries having uh, ancillary manufacturers, they have a just-in-time concept. Similarly, they also ensure the statutory compliances of those organizations are met in time. Otherwise, their ultimate product, manufacturing a car, gets impacted. So there is a requirement. Maybe they are financially, met with some kind of a crisis. For that, they have to make funds. But in the longer run, for the business sustenance and continued partnership with a bigger organization they work with, obviously they have to maintain all these compliances. And as Vandana said, if it is a resource issue like HR, like great resignations, people have left, joined one company to other. A guy who is managing a guy or person managing the compliance left. They should not be suddenly get flummoxed with that sudden vacuum. They have to uh, access somebody. So it is better for them to move into organizations which are providing the service at a cost. So they don't get suffered because of sudden departure or someone who is managing the process.
I would build on it. I will say that no, supporting the MSME is a part of the value system, the ethics and culture of an organization. Like on my part, I monitor the MSME payment on a daily basis. Every day morning, 10 o'clock, there has to be an email in front of me that how much MSME vendor are overdue. So there is no overdue. We ensure that we make payment within 45 days. So it depends upon culture to organization to organization. But overall, if you see, there is no mayhem in the society. One can't say that in the COVID period, India has gone down the drain. The general unemployment, people have lost jobs. So in fact, we are continuously hiring people. Last year we hired people. This year we are hiring people. So and the GST collection has increased. So to my understanding, COVID is a matter of past, and compliance has not caused any challenge or difficulty to the either large organizations or MSME sector as such. Whatever has happened has happened. Now we are on the path of recovery.
Recovery it is indeed. So moving ahead, the second question that I have for SB is that how does statutory compliance relates to the various labor and taxation laws prevalent in India?
It's quite a large question. See, so one is
I know.
there is a laundry list of laws which are there in HR, and I really salute the HR fraternity. This being an HR forum, I want to compliment the HR team. and how they have managed the COVID, maintain the motivation of the employees, continue to hire the team. Salute to all the HR fraternity. Now, HR not being a very hardcore legal team, still they handle plethora of laws, and those laws are extremely critical. From PF, ESI, pension, bonus, maternity benefit, labor welfare, gratuity, wage rules, minimum child labor, your employment exchange rules. So there's a plethora of rules which are generic and which are general, which applies to company. Then there are state level regulations, still state level laws, and there is no standard, there is no general standard laundry list which can be said. You can download a laundry list, but it has to be customized for a company.
Custom.
So let's say we have got 127 stores across India. The law which are applicable in West Bengal may not be same in Maharashtra, may not be same in Gujarat. So there is always a challenge on all the fraternity, be it finance, be it HR, which are, these two are more important and more from operation side. So one has to understand the respective law and then implement it. Let's say, as I listed you about the HR laws. In finance also, there are multiple laws. We talk about income tax, we talk about GST, we talk about Companies Act, FEMA, we talk about the various EXIM laws. So there are each law has its own requirement of compliances, and those are being complied. Each and every organization has to evolve, develop the structure, develop the framework, train the people, train the new people, train the existing people, and then ensure compliance.
Great, great. In fact, Sanjay, what you mentioned, is definitely true. But then, if you can, probably talk a little more on from a taxation laws prevalent in India perspective, it would be
Hmm.
a add on to the point.
Okay. No, so but primarily this discussion today is not to discuss the taxation laws, right? It is more about the compliances in general.
Compliance, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
compliance in general. We can discuss about taxation law. It may be subject matter of interest for the fraternity as such. So one is primarily they are bifurcated into direct tax laws and indirect tax laws. Direct tax law is income tax. Now in income tax, there are certain activity which are employee facing, and there are certain activity which are corporate facing. What is the employee facing? What is the employee facing aspects from compliance perspective? About the salary structure, about reduction of TDS, about collecting the adequate documents and documentation, about structuring the perquisite structure within the overall framework of what is permissible within the Income Tax Act. We will not. This may not be the appropriate forum to discuss how
Correct.
to structure the
Of
perquisite,
course.
how to ensure
Yes.
the documentations are done, how to collect the document, how to meet the requirement of your assessing officer in the particular circle. But net, what we are discussing is that in taxation laws, the compliance has to be done. So, what are the
Yes.
compliances? Compliances are timely applying the correct tax rate, timely deposit of taxes, maintenance of adequate records, and they are quite a vast topic. So, I'm just touching the broad area. Maintaining the records, maintaining the record for certain periods. So let's say under Companies Act, you have to maintain the record for minimum 7 years. And if you don't maintain, you can be issued notice by Registrar of Companies, by Ministry of Company Affairs. Under GST, there is, I think, 7 to 8 years up to
It
which you
is.
have to maintain the records. For
Records.
example, there is a concept of input tax credit. So when you raise an invoice, you charge GST, and the GST is claimed as input tax credit. But if the original invoice is not preserved, original invoice I'm saying, if the original invoice is not preserved, the GST officer can decline to give income tax credit. Which means that if you're a large organization like us, we have millions of records. We have to ensure that they are preserved, although there is no logic. That no, because today there is a digital record, but
Everything.
the law still says that you have to preserve the physical record. It is at the sole discretion and mercy of the GST officer to decline the credit to you. So there are requirements that no, you have to display, and many of the organizations I say that no, the display the company name, the registered office address of the company, the SIN number, and the GST number at each and every location. And if you don't display, In the English language and local language, there are penalties. There are requirement that no, you have to take the approval. So each and every person who signs the invoice, you will say, small bird signed. We don't know who has signed the invoice. The requirement that it should be an authorized official of the
Authorized.
company. Now, how do you authorize? Do you authorize verbally? Do you authorize
Of
by
course.
email? So the authorization has to be through a formal corporate governance, either through a power of attorney or by naming him in the board resolution or by authorizing certain official who will in turn authorize somebody. So these are very complex. Since you sorry touched on the taxation, I will take one more time, but we'll come back to the main topic, which is more important. You make a lot of foreign remittance. There's a requirement of Section 195 where you have to deduct the withholding tax. Now, withholding tax itself is a very complex area. India has signed the double taxation avoidance agreement with almost more than 100 countries. So you have to see which rate is applicable for remittance to a particular country and the nature of remittance. Then one is to see the agreement. This can be questioned. So it's quite a vast and complex subject. But net we are saying that the compliance has to be done. As you said, compliance is not a choice. Compliance is mandatory,
Mandatory.
particularly from an HR perspective. Since HR does the hiring, you should look at the skill sets of the employee, that how much diligent he is he committed to compliance or not, because due to non-compliance by one employee, the entire organization can face the risk.
I agree. I agree. And what better way to ask this question to you, Narendra? That because in compliance, a lot of it is physical copies, maintain, retain, physical copies, and now with the a lot of new compliance tools coming into picture, do you think they are really the panacea for compliance and better compliance management, and probably the future where compliance will head?
See, if you ask me, I can give a small example.
Please
All
do.
these compliance tools are coming. Um, can that be itself an end? If you ask me, I don't think so. It is, if I have to compare it with a kind of a dashboard in a car. What is the purpose of dashboard fitted in a car? It is ensuring the driver gets some information which is making the car run safely. Maybe its engine is not overheated, speed limit is maintained, fuel is not drying. All these things are information coming. But that itself make the car road travel safety in that car? It is not so. It is a person who drives. Same way, if I have to do that, all these AI tools can give certain amount of comfort for the people who are doing it. Firstly, you have to do. Secondly, it is a demonstration of compliance only we are going to do on the tool, isn't it? It is not that if you are not paying the person on or before 7th of a month, what you can go and do in the tool. If you are not paying the statutory dues on 15th of every month, what is that you can go and do it? At least you can say, okay, I paid the fine, this is the receipt, you can penalty I paid, and you can do it. So these are things will make it visible, like a dashboard will take the senior leadership of an organization visible so quickly. It is not somebody wraps it unless until it is inspected by a authority. It is coming unearthed. It is coming to visibility of the people every month, and the people in the position of an authority can question why it is not compliant. What is the reason? Similarly, some plans or some companies are having a kind of a system, like it is driven by the company's law. I believe Sanjay can clarify that. They have a quarterly board meeting. In that quarterly board meeting, they ask what is their list of non-compliances in every functional heads. They have to list it. They have to categorize it, whether risk is high or medium or low, and they have to give a reason why it has happened and when they are going to complete it, if at all. What is the remedial actions? So these are all some of the things, it has to be, it was in the pen and paper or some form, not online. Today, all these things are getting into online so that it gets the instant eyeball catching. That's the very important aspect. So the remedial action can speed up and it can, output can be much faster.
I will put it differently, Narendra. Uh, First of all, an automated solution, a compliance platform, it is not a panacea.
That's
It
what
is
I'm
not
saying.
a solution. It is like, you are given a car, but the car has to be customized. So what they do is that, no, it is like a masala dosa. Now you want a onion masala dosa, rava masala dosa. You want more potato in this. You want more some other condiments in it. So compliance portal is absolutely like that. And I don't want to sound critical on the compliance management portal, but the fact remains that there is no ideal compliance checklist. Clearly, the responsibility for making a compliance checklist rests with the company. If you think that you will go to an XYZ and tell them that implement the compliance management portal, take my word, you are guaranteed to fail. And I can speak for any and most respected consulting organization for India, they will ensure that you fail miserably. So never ever trust any compliance organization as far as the knowledge management is concerned. They have only a laundry list. If you depend upon them, they will implement the entire laundry list on them, and your entire organization will be handicapped. The laws which are not required to be monitored, those will be implemented on you. The minor compliance issues which need not be monitored, which it is assumed that the compliance are happening, that will also be added. I will give you a simple example. And as I said, the list of compliance is endless. For example, I have got this company act in front of me, right? Now, Act has got, I think, around 500 to 600 sections. Now, tell me, when it means compliance, do you want to check each and every section of Companies Act? Answer is no. There are certain activities which are definitely happening. For example, does the company has a registered office? It's a compliance issue. Answer is yes. But do you want a person to confirm every month that do you have a registered office? Yes, sir. Next month again, the compliance tool will ask, do you have a registered office? Answer is yes. Do you have a
Oh,
managing director?
one
Answer is
minute,
yes.
Sanjay, I'm not saying that compliance tool is,
Yeah,
whatever they give, all the big four gives, you blindly implement it.
yeah,
What I'm saying is, you know what it is and what they
yeah.
are putting, and you are going to tailor make for your thing. You're going to
Exactly. So
tailor to give your body size to make a suit,
yes.
not whatever,
So
he says, okay, this is the suit most suitable,
exactly.
wear it and
Yeah.
walk out.
So
That is the way.
yeah, I'm building on this. So what I'm saying is that the compliance, first of all, a list has to be made. The list should be made by the concerned functional head. So if you are an HR head, you are the expert of the HR law. If I'm the finance head, I'm the expert of finance law. And then it will be seen. It should be tailor made for the locations which are there. Then appoint an expert who will look at the compliance. Talk to your statutory auditor, talk to your internal auditor, talk to the consultants who have been working with the company. And this particularly applies for a person who newly joins a company because the management has certain expectations from them. Do an entire process, prepare a compliance checklist, get it checked by the board, and then hand it over to the compliance management portal to automate it. So, to my understanding, portal are excellent. If you have done the first part by yourself and with expertise, then the portal is excellent because then you don't have to do a manual monitoring. You don't have to do a manual reminder. The portal will send you a reminder to the person if he has not done the job in terms of ensuring compliance, maintaining register, timely payment, timely return. And then at the end of every month, you can generate a consolidated compliance checklist for which you will require an army of 4 to 5 people to maintain that list. So that's how I feel the setting of the compliance framework, our role as the CXO.
Exactly. I think both of you are saying that the new tools that they are there that definitely going to simplify the work that
Yeah,
we have at hand, because compliance is huge, and the moment you showed that book, it's scary. And specifically for an HR person who's not a lawyer, I'm not a legal person, but yet I'm supposed to know what is required. So it just is scary. And when the vendor walks up to me and talks about this laundry list of activities that I'm supposed to do, it's overwhelming for an HR partner. And think about somebody who's starting new in the career, who they start with compliances, because a lot of HR assistants, they're supposed to take care of it. And
Correct.
these excels definitely helped us in the past, but what I see is that yeah, Sanjay, because I am into a lot of HRMS transformations and all,
Right.
so I can tell you the earlier platforms were there which required the vendor was putting blankly everything which was there.
Exactly.
Now the new age portals are such that they will give you a checklist again, and they will ask you to answer these questions. Based on your inputs, they will upload it into the HRMS portal, and thus personalizing the entire data for you. So I think with the HRMS portal on pay, on compliances, I think life is definitely a little easier.
Absolutely. I fully agree
Uh,
with you. If
we
it is
all
used with prudence, and if you don't upload the entire law into compliance portal, you know what is to be checked, what is not to be checked. Like, let's know,
indeed,
when you go
yeah.
when we go to doctor, he doesn't take the whole test. He tests only a few things. He tests your BP, your temperature, and comes to conclusion. So that approach is required.
And then so you are not going to the right hospital. You should go to multi-speciality hospital. They'll
Yeah.
check you from top till bottom. Then they will tell you what you have with you.
Yeah.
Anyways, we are digressing from the topic. But yes, I wanted to focus you to focus specifically, Sanjay, that while I know this again is a very exhaustive topic, and you will tell me that how to ring fence promoters and top management when it comes to compliance. You know,
Right. No.
how do you do that?
Yes, yes. So first of all, the beginning is same, that you must find out the list of laws which are applicable to the company. Now, now, now classify the compliances into 3 to 4 major categories. What are the risk of imprisonment? What is the risk of shutdown of business? So let's say if you are governed by a regulator, you are governed by IRDA, Port Authority. In IRDA, Port Authority, like I have worked for more than 20 years in telecom. The Telecom Regulatory Authority, they were the grandfather. If you
Yeah.
do any non-compliances, there's a risk of simply shutting down your license. And we have seen that in the past. How many telecom licenses have been closed, although they have not been closed for non-compliances. So if you are a regulator-driven company, a banking industry, then you must classify those, understand the license agreement requirement. Otherwise, your business can be shut down permanently or temporarily. That is one. Then from the law, list out where are the risk of imprisonment, what are the risk of penalty and fine, and what is the volume. So classify your entire law on these 3 4 category, and attach most important focus depending upon this. But this will not ring fence. This is only one approach. So now, I don't know about how various organizations work. Let's say you have got a factory. Who is the occupier of the factory? Is it the owner and MD who is the occupier of the factory, or it is a professional who is the occupier of the factory? Because if there is any fire, if any accident in the factory, it is the director who will directly be responsible for any consequence, be it arrest or whatever. So what is the solution? So one should look at the provision for appointment of a person as occupier. Understand who can be appointed as occupier of the factory. Only a director can be appointed as occupier of the factory. So appoint an expert as a director on the board, make him as an occupier, give him adequate fee, give him adequate support, and so that in case of any issue at a factory, that occupier is held responsible, not the MD, not the owner, not the promoter. This is just one example. So I'm sure that most of you will be knowing it, but this is very important. Similarly, under Companies Act, for any non-compliance, the board can be held responsible. The key managerial persons can be held responsible. So who are the KMP? the KMP is the CFO and the company secretary. For any wrongdoing, any non-compliance, the KMP will be responsible for consequence. You know what does the consequence means? Company Act has become extremely stringent, and if I don't call it draconian, since we are working in a democratic country, it is not fair to call law draconian. But to my understanding, there are many provisions of Companies Act which are draconian or draconian super. Now, which means that the risk is not only to the board, the risk is to independent director. Now, depending upon the nature of sections of Companies Act, appoint somebody officer in default. So let's say there is a requirement of maintenance of books of accounts. So for the books of accounts, the MD should not be responsible, the CFO should not be responsible. Make your AGM accounts, GM accounts as officer in default for the respective section. That if the books of accounts are not maintained, first of all, that person should bear the legal consequences. There are provisions for borrowing, lending. There are provisions for conducting meeting. And if you don't do that, there are provisions for CSR. So you are aware about detailed provision. So for each and every specific section, make somebody who is holding that role operationally as the officer in default. So by understanding the respective law as to what is, I gave you two examples about officer in default in the Companies Act, occupier under Factory Act, about the requirement. I think under the data privacy law and under the information technology law, the company has to appoint a person as a data officer. If you don't appoint a data officer, then once again, managing director, board will be responsible. So you should appoint someone as a data officer. Can it be a CTO, CIO, or can it be a GM IT? Can it be a senior manager IT? That will depend upon the organization structure, the bandwidth, and the skill set of the concerned person. So these are a few points to which you can ring fence and protect the board. You may be aware, there was one hospital in Calcutta. Long back, around 15 years, there was a fire in the hospital. Fire can happen. The government arrested the board. Board means the promoter, his wife, his daughter-in-law, everybody was put in jail for, I think, more than 15 to 17 days. Why? Because the person who was the compliance officer of that company, the CFO of that company, the CXO of that company, they did not apply their brain. They did not direct the promoter. So it is our duty to ensure that the promoters, who are the lifeblood of the Indian economy, who provide employment, who generate employment, it is our sacred duty to ring fence and protect them, because it is they who are driving the economy of the country.
Indeed, indeed. Thank you. That was really, really elaborative, and thank you for and actually a lot of things that we talk loosely, but when it comes from an expert's mouth, we tend to gain more, give more attention. Tomorrow, if I look at it, then I will think it from a different perspective probably. Correct. So thank you for that part of it.
I think before you come to next question,
Uh-huh.
I must share with you, there are certain provisions of Companies Act. What do you think is the penalty amount under certain act if the person is charged that penalty? A managing director will lose his job. He will become ineligible to continue as the managing director. What do you think that amount will be? Any guess you can make? It will be really interesting. I think everybody will be surprised. Just make a guess of a figure. If a managing director, if it is somehow managing director is implicated and he charged that amount of penalty, he will lose his job as managing director by the operation of law. He has to apply to the government of India, say sorry, maybe go to court, and again be reappointed as a managing director. What is that figure? Just make a guess and you will really enjoy.
I'll make a blank guess. 50,000
Yeah.
rupees.
Huh?
50,000 rupees.
1,000 rupee. If it says no person shall be eligible for appointment as a managing director or executive director if he has been sentenced to imprisonment for any period or a fine exceeding 1,000 rupees if the managing director of your company is convicted through a process of 1,000 rupees, he will lose his job as managing director. Which are those acts? You know which act has been added, and I call it draconian. The GST Act has been added 3-4 years back. If the managing director is held responsible, he is charged a penalty of 1,500 rupee. He will lose his job as a managing director. What are the other acts? Customs Act, Competition Act, FEMA Act, Companies Act, Income Tax Act. In any of these acts, so there are 24 listed acts. If the managing director is personally held responsible, he will lose his job. And that is the seriousness with which we should do the balanced discussion from now till the end of this webinar.
Okay. Okay. That was a good one. And so moving ahead to Narendra, so Narendra, the how statutory compliance can ensure security and personal safety of employees as well as the consumers and their data. We have been speaking a lot about data. I wanted you to prolong probably talk a little more about it in
Yeah.
detail.
Firstly, well, let's not go to the statutory compliance itself. Let's do what all we do, right things. If you do it in the right manner, which is going to protect the employees as well as customers, everyone. May there be any law, whether it is Payment of Wages Act or maybe personally sensitive information, PI Act or whatever it is, anything, you do it in the right way, right earnestness. I'm sure all the people who are having stakeholding in the organizations, they will be benefited. So if you are doing that, then beyond that there is nothing there prescribed in the law. Certain times law will not have all the answers to comply. So when you come across that kind of a situation, in my opinion, we should take a fair view of it and comply. For example, I'll give you an idea. Like when the pandemic stuck and when first lockdown announced by the Prime Minister in the year 2020 March 21st, I think 21st or 22nd, he just came on and informed the nation tomorrow onwards complete ban.
Yes, band.
Right. So the very next thing, I called a couple of senior leaders and thing, and they said, the worst affected people will be not our employees, our contract workmen, because we have a huge number of contract workmen in our organization, around 6,000, 7,000 people spread across some 16, 17 locations, plus in the market and all these things. How are you going to protect them? Because they will be suddenly feeling, something rug under the leg is going pulled off. They are in the air suddenly, like falling, free fall. So one other thing I suggested is whosoever present on the company as of 20th of March 2022, even one day a contract labor has come, he should be paid full month wages. Of course, some people have really, for them it took, I am something talking from air, some benevolent talk and all these things. But of course, there are some supporters. Finally, we took a call and went and paid that month. You won't believe. And the CIA, because I am a member of CIA National AR Committee, they were following up with us. What is that your people are doing about contract labor?
Yeah.
First question is about fund. I said, no, we have done that. There are a couple of companies have done like that. What I have done for our company has been done.
Yes.
So the second circular, if you all remember, which came from MHA, we talked about whether they are employed or not, whether they are coming or not, if they were in the roles of a contractor in the month of March, they have to be paid a wages.
Yes.
If you remember that went on. And as well as, this went on for about 3 months. Then MSME started, crying. We have no money. Our things are dried up. You do something. Everybody went to Nirmala Sitharaman and she was telling bank collection, the loan that was finally turned out to be hawks,
Fake
whatever it
hawks.
is, right? So they were crying. Then again, CI kind of organizations went back to the government and posted, this cannot be continued forever. We cannot. We have done some 3 months, fine. So where is the law? When somebody is not coming to work, you're paying them. So that's what I'm trying to tell. So law always will follow some good practices. Or law sometimes, will always come after some bad thing happened, like Bhopal gas tragedy. After that, only the entire Factories Act, hazardous stuff got added,
Something added.
right? So it is, very important that a good organization, good employer should factor all these things and start, putting the right structure in the place so that whether it is relating to the employment laws or whether it is relating to company law or running a factory or running any kind of a S&D operations, they have to put the right thing. Recently, I noticed one thing I forgot to tell. I am living slightly outskirts of Bangalore in a golfing community, where after 10 o'clock also we used to get a Swiggy and Zomato coming and delivering. I used to see the vehicles entering and doing. Sometimes I've seen on 11, 11:30, 12. Today I noticed all this organization, one fine day, they took a call. Last order is at 9 o'clock in the evening. So they wanted to, though they are not a gig employees, they are not their employees, at least some kind of a sense prevailed in them. It is not driven by any law. Organizations themselves took a call and stopped 9 o'clock. So that's a kind of a change. Probably tomorrow when a gig employment, any law is being enacted, they will be dictating the time. Because you cannot order at midnight, 2 o'clock, someone is keeping the restaurant open, you cannot do that.
See, you
So
are right. I think ultimately, what is law? What is compliance? Compliance is a collective consent of the society. While in a temper we can call it draconian, while some provisions can be draconian, but reality law is a consent of the society.
why you
And
call it a draconian? Why can't you call it a deterrent? It is a deterrent being used there.
no
In theory
certain
of punishment, there are three types: deterrent theory, retributive theory, and reformative theory. So
correct.
certain
Maybe
laws are financially laws are made deterrent so that people don't get a safe haven in Britain
Narendra, while we
after
can
doing all
discuss
these
the
things.
law, I'm saying that if for a 1,000 penalty you remove a person as a managing director, it is not deterrent, it is draconian, it is stupid. So it's my personal view. As a professional, we can vary. So my point was that laws represent the collective conscience of the society. If an organization doesn't provide maternity benefit and find out a solution around that, then they are against the collective conscience of the society. They must be punished for child labor. So there are certain areas I think where and I think that our laws are quite mature. People can say that these are British law. My personal understanding is, barring a few cases, our law as a society are quite mature. So
You are not
we
heard properly. I don't know.
we
See,
must be very careful when it concerns preventing food stocking in an organization where the food
so no, in my opinion, I'll tell you, no law is draconian. Everything is, either
it
kind of a,
concerns safety in an organization where the
unless
food
until it is
safety
a
is
retributory, it is not a draconian
because
law,
it can
name it. I'll give you an example. During the pandemic, Gujarat government enacted a thing called you can work up to 12 hours. How many of you, anybody from Gujarat can easily remember this thing? Post COVID, they said 12 hours without overtime, do a work. Finally, where they got a directive, the labor minister, union labor minister got a directive from ILO to review this. There is a letter, I saw that it is written. And I saw that letter written to him very, very, then it is
Stunning.
copied to Prime Minister of India, asking them it is something against the ethos of the working hours and labor management. So finally, so my team, you won't believe, my Gujarat, there are two factories, and people are there. They were, were telling me gung ho, no, the law has come, we will deploy people 12 hours and all this, nothing doing. Because we are not only present in Gujarat,
Gujarat.
we are present everywhere in India, other 18 states. We cannot just go and do something, for Gujarat alone, which is wrong. So we will follow 8 hours working. And that saved us from not many non-compliances which came out later. Because with the retrospective effect, they went and amended. For state, what is the big thing?
Indeed.
Do you understand? Like our one other law, the Bonus Act, they got it amended retrospective. Ask companies to go and pay. If you call that, that is stupid law that has been put in. Right now, I can tell you one more stupid law, whether it is double taxation, Sanjay can tell. PF, anybody saves beyond 2.5 lakh, it is getting taxed. Isn't it something, you are, the people in the private sector not getting pensionary benefit much, the meagerly pension. At least the people at the retirement stage, they are saving. And that too, our finance minister is eyeing and getting some pecuniary benefit from that. Isn't it a very, very stupid law?
No, I fully agree with you. That is where is the challenge, and particularly, I think the
I am also
salary.
getting emotional with knowing certain laws which are without forethought being enacted. Later, they are rolled back. And many high courts have stayed that bonus act. I
In
don't know how
fact,
many
I
of
want to
them.
add my act here. The Posh Act.
Yeah.
The Posh Act is prevalent, and everybody knows that if you are non-compliant with Posh Act for the first time, there is a fine of up to 50,000, and if you are found second time, there is an opportunity your license will get cancelled. But yet in India, compliance is a challenge when it comes to
Yeah.
that.
That's true. Posh is another thing, we have to come in terms because recently enacted and it is not socialized with many of the organizations, especially MSMEs, where women are,
So these are,
employed. Of course, it
so
requires a
these are
lot
the
of
touchy issues. So these
people
are the
like you
touchy
only
issues.
can, Vandana, can be active activist to,
I am
bring
already.
life to those things.
I am already working at the grassroots level. I work extensively with the MSME sector,
Yeah,
and whatever is the cost that they are ready to bear, I am ready to give service to them.
sure,
But because I want them to create safe workplaces, I am committed to it.
sure.
And this was an amazing conversation. Faisal just appeared, and then I realized, oh my God, it's already 15:56, and there is almost no time for taking questions from the people who are listening to us. So I'm so sorry. And thank you, Narendra and Sanjay. It was amazing, engrossing. I really
Yeah.
loved it and enjoyed it. Faisal, over to you.
So before we move to the Q&A round, we'll be running a poll to have the participants' valuable feedback on this session. During this time, we request all participants to feel free and put their questions in the chat box.
I have one question. Since nobody's asking, I'm just asking
Yeah,
again.
sure.
Okay. So I know there was during pandemic there was a ruling which came into picture, like the organization can actually go ahead and pay half the salary to the employees if they are not able to pay. So that was there. Now what will happen to the remaining half? Was this remaining half given? I haven't seen any documentation on that. Is this money coming to the people?
Is it? I don't think people who are not attended the work have been advised like this. Probably not attended, were advised to pay some money. Later, they retracted it.
No, no. So there were employees who had attended half day, full day office, but were paid half during that time.
I will add here. See, ultimately, if there is a problem in a company, I'm speaking more since as a finance person, I'm speaking from a different perspective. If the company is facing challenge, employee cannot say that no, I don't care, give me my salary. So I think we should be considerate that the companies had huge losses, revenue losses, company had challenges. So and different companies have different approaches. Many company, I don't know, many or some or most, many companies, to my understanding, gave a salary cut to the employees, and they use this opportunity unethically, unethically, because the companies which were ethical, they have restored the salary. They have given a higher salary. And I was just looking at the annual report of Tanishq. They have given a bonus of 75 crore this year to the salary to the employees for the performance which they have achieved. So it is all a matter of ethics. So the point is that if you are going through a bad time, the employee must share the cost and consequences equally. But when the good time comes, the organization must allow them to recuperate and not use it as an opportunity to make unjust enrichment.
Great, great. So I just wanted to understand if there is any ruling which has come into picture, like the half part which was not paid should be paid when since your good times are back, kind of a
I,
thing.
I don't think that ruling should come. See, in a free economy, certain things should be left to the employer. No, otherwise, what will happen? The company is not able to pay. You will issue a notice. The business will go out of existence. So our court and our government are and should be mature, not to unnecessarily interfere, because it's a free economy. Today, you are not able to get employees. The organizations who were unfair, I'm sure that they deserve to be deserted, and they must have been deserted. So that's how the interplay will work, and everybody will be constrained to maintain a balance and semblance of ethics as well.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you for giving this input because I think this question was hanging over me for some time, and a lot of people had asked me, and I did not have a clear cut answer. While I used to give a similar kind of answer, but now I know Sanjay, we are on sync.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
As we are not having any questions, we can just close. So thank you, Ms. Vandana, for taking us through this session and making it such interactive and exciting. Thank you, Mr. Sanjay and Mr. Narendra, for sharing your valuable thoughts and insights with us. It has been a privilege having you all for this engrossing session. To all those who wish to learn and grow, you can access the recording for our today's session on the YouTube link shared in the chat window. Before we conclude with today's session, we would also want to thank all our associations, Geisha, NASCOM, COE, Gliptalk, Talgro, TLE, WICCI, LinkedIn Local Ahmedabad and India for supporting HRI events. To know more about these associations, request you to kindly visit the link provided in the chat window. Do join us for our next event, the 2022 Dialogue Masterclass Series, starting 20th of June 2022. That's it from our today's webinar. Hope to see you soon. Stay safe, take care, and bye for now.
Thank you, Faisal. Thank you,
Mr.
Vandana.
Thank
Thank
you,
you,
Mr.
Sanjay.
So it was good interacting with all of you. Thank you very much. See you again.
see you soon. Bye bye, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you for
Bye.
having me.